You've reached the Government Center Conference Bridge. Please enter the 6-digit PIN code.
Hey. Can you hear me? Brenda.
He's on mute also, that's what we can hear you.
Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Good. Tell them I heard all of them talking about my seat.
County School Board to order at 7:01 p.m. on June 1st, 2021. As we begin tonight, the audience will note that all of our board members are on the dais together. Seating placement was agreed upon by the board members and is in line with the Governor's Executive Order number 79. Additionally, the County Government Center allows for anyone who is vaccinated to not wear a face mask. Board members are welcome and able to follow that guidance as they are comfortable. At this time, we'll proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States. It stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor
Can we have discussion on that?
on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to add something to the agenda. So I'd like to add I move that I would move that we amend the approval of the agenda to add a short discussion on the Gifted Advisory Committee as well, since we're discussing all the other committees, and we had received an email from the chair this past week or two. So I think that's something that is pertinent and timely, and I'd like to have a chance to talk about it.
Second.
Do you want a roll call vote for that, Ms. Graham?
Yes, please.
Okay, and I
Ms. Bond, I know that you're on the phone, but we haven't approved your electronic participation yet, so you won't participate in this vote. You don't come into the meeting until that electronic meeting participation happens. I just want her to know why I won't be calling her name, but also the audience to know. So this is a motion to amend the agenda to add a discussion regarding the Gifted Advisory Committee. And I have not yet implemented the system to change the order of everyone. We're working on that. Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Karan?
I'm confused because I make the motion to approve the agenda as is. Do I have to take that motion back now that Mr. Chabaka
So this is,
amended?
it's not amended yet. He made a motion to amend. If this motion carries,
I see what you're
then you
saying.
would vote on the amended agenda. If this motion fails, you would vote on the agenda without the amendment.
Thank you. I always need to
No,
be
it's no problem. I'm
clarified.
happy to remind you. It's no problem.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And now it takes me just a hot second to get back to here.
And if we could, I think it would make sense to put that, it can go anywhere, probably before G, just because, right?
Okay, can we move forward with adopting the agenda and then I will add it to
Sure.
the agenda? Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Karan, seconded by Ms. Parton. Is everybody ready? All right. Mr. Trebek, I'm sorry?
I think that was just, when I go back there, you had something that didn't seem accurate. It said that Marty Graham wasn't present, and there were only 5 yeses.
Let me see.
Oh,
yes.
now it's right. Okay.
Mr. Trebek,
Yes.
Ms. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Cass,
Yes.
Ms. Karan,
Yes.
Ms. Parton,
Yes.
Ms. Graham.
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll need just a few minutes, please.
Sure.
It's kind of dark in here or something.
It does feel a
Does
little
seem a
dark.
little bit.
Are we Mr. Krantz? Excuse me, are we missing some lights up here? Okay, thank you. Was that okay to ask him?
I don't
It's just
care.
These aren't on.
Thought it seemed
There we
dark
go.
up there.
Whoa, all right, that's
There
a
you
little
go.
much.
Let there be light.
Okay.
Thank
Good.
you.
That's good. Thank you.
You just had to get up, Mr. Krantz, that's all.
Now it's really bright.
Do you hold your hands up or something, Tommy?
I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Bond has asked to participate in tonight's meeting electronically as she is out of town. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Bond's electronic participation?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, you're with us now.
Okay, great.
Tonight, we will have a public hearing on the 2021-2022 operating budget. The budget for public hearing does have the correct revenue numbers from the state. There's no one signed up for the budget public hearing. At this time and at each of our regularly scheduled meetings, the school board sets aside up to 30 minutes for residents, students, and employees to address the board about issues pertaining to public education in Montgomery County. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Drake will have a timer on the screen. Currently, we have no one signed up for virtual public address.
So do we not need to close the public hearing before we move on to the regular meeting? Because it's 2 different meetings.
Do we need to do that?
I'm unsure, but I trust Ms. Franklin.
Okay. All right. So
The public hearing is now closed.
the public hearing is now closed. That work?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills as presented?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hi.
It'll always be delayed. All right, our next item on the agenda is board member reports. Does anyone have any thing they would like to talk about?
I'll go first. Am I on? No, I'm on. So I had the pleasure of attending Blacksburg High School's graduation. Mr. Jabak and I did. It was especially meaningful for me because it was my last group of students that I've taught in the school system that were graduating. A few days before graduation, I went over to the high school and dropped off, when I was teaching in 8th grade, I had an assignment for one of my classes, and it was that they were to write a letter to themselves to their senior selves. And so I dropped off the letters, and the fair majority of the students were still there. So they got their letters that they wrote to themselves 4 years ago, and I was lucky I found them. I found them in a bag down in my basement. But anyway, so that was kind of fun to hand out, and I actually heard from one of the parents who said it made her weep. So anyway, that's really all I have. That was, I think, the biggest thing that's been going on, and I think everyone is relatively happy that the school year is over.
Anybody else have anything?
I've got a short one.
Okay.
So before school got out, Jamie and I had the pleasure of visiting Christiansburg Middle School. However, it was a crazy day because we weren't thinking, and it was SOL testing. But that really gave us a good day to visit because even in the chaos, everything was going beautifully. So kudos to Micah Medford for that and his staff and the administration there. We got to see how things were handled during testing time and how the kids were going to different various rooms and everything was going smoothly. We couldn't believe. He was a little stressed out, but everything went great. I haven't been to visit CMS in probably close to a year, maybe a little over a year, so it was good to get back there. I also visited Falling Branch Elementary, and I had a wonderful visit there as well. They had testing going on that day as well, but everything was going great there, was still in all of the great renovations there, and how the kids were enjoying all the room, the extra play area, the gym, everything was just working out wonderfully. I did want to say congratulations to the seniors of the class of 2021, to all of our high schools, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Auburn, and Eastmont. Congratulations. I know it was a tough year. You guys came through with flying colors. I'm so proud of all of you. I had the pleasure of attending Eastern Montgomery High School graduation. Dr. Meyer was there as well. It was great. The weather couldn't have been any better for all of our graduations. Once again, thank you, Lord, for looking over us and having things happen the way they needed to. So it was wonderful. It was good to see the smiling faces, the kids together celebrating. It just made my heart feel happy. So once again, congratulations, and thank you again to the teachers, staff, everyone. If I don't want to leave anybody out, for again having and doing and going above and beyond this past year. I know it's been difficult, but we couldn't have done it without you. So I just want to say a personal thank you, and to the office staff, which I personally thanked at FBE because they were crazy that day. So I know sometimes we don't think about them. They're counted as administration, but they've really got a tough job because they're the front line. So thank you again from me, and I know the board will agree. You guys have done a tremendous job, so thank you again for everything you've done.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I attended few virtual events, and one was MCPS CTE signing event, and it went wonderful, and it was so amazing to see all those kids through the pandemic and successfully going on and moving with their future plans, and I appreciate Mr. Husband. That was a great virtual event. And then the other one was the MCPS retirement. I would call banquet, but the event without the food. But every bit enjoyed. It was very well done. All the slideshows and whoever worked behind Mr. Nuts, probably HR and everybody that worked and sent all those great little stories about all our teachers that retired, an amazing 1,000, I think, hours, and I don't know, 60, probably 70, well, 100, probably 28 from last year, I guess, 100 retirees, and so that was fun to watch it through. And the other one is, since I couldn't be with you when Crabtree presented Christiansburg High School visioning meeting, I attended the one that they presented for the community. And again, it was, virtually, and I thought they did a good job. That's pretty much it. I am so glad this year is over for like everybody else, and successfully over. So thank you, everybody that made it happen. I know it was tough for all of us, but we survived. We did it. And the students, I already put on, I think, Facebook graduated, all the graduates of ours, and congratulate them that they survived a tough year. And I think they are ready to move on with their lives. So thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I had a few things. I did attend graduation. I'll just say that it's, I'm at that age where the kids walking across the stage now are, some of my kids' peers, or we're in a class or two above them, and it's really just been fun to see that happen. So, but thank you to the staff for a successful outdoor graduation event. I attended a meeting of the Southwest Virginia Governor's School as a representative of our board. And so quickly, some of the highlights from that, they are hoping for more of a normal year next year, I think, like hopefully we all are. They did say that they ended up they did 100% of their recruiting for next year's students, 100% online. So the counselors did everything online, and I think it was an improvement, even if not a success. They also they were going to do a 5% teacher raise, which I think is good. I mean, we often give raises, but when we give raises, the governor's school does not automatically get raises. So I thought it was good that they were able to do that. They also we passed a budget with a $1,250 bonus for the governor's school teachers, just like similar to what a lot of the counties have done around here. And then the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is they did mention that next year, even though they're hoping for more of a normal year, they will keep using their, I guess it's called Jigsaw. It's the main piece of software they used for remote learning. So they're intending, of course, to go back in person, but I think they saw it as a valuable tool, especially there with with kids coming from all over. So they're not exactly sure how they're going to use it, but there is, I think, a plan to keep using it in some capacity. And then the third thing is, I did want to mention about the board retreat. Obviously, we all attended that, but I did want to say some things, I think, publicly about that. I did think overall that it was a good discussion, and I appreciate all of you guys and the discussions that we had. I thought the information from Brad on collective bargaining was really insightful as well. I did also think that I think we had really good discussion, and then like right at the end of the open discussion was when, I think Penny hit the nail on the head on some things, where she basically said we keep dancing around the topic of trust, and we need to talk about that sometime. And I do think that that's something that we do need to talk about, and maybe those discussions can even happen one-on-one, or maybe that can be addressed, as we maybe do more social things together or something like that. But that is something that I definitely desire to do with more of you guys this year, because I do think we need it, and I think it'll be good for us. And the one thing that was kind of made me raise my eyebrows a little bit, and something that gave me some concern, and it is something else that I think that we as a board need to maybe have some discussions about along the way. And that's when the topic came up in one of the discussions about staff recommendations. And my understanding was that several board members basically said that, you know, the staff are the professionals and the experts, which I totally agree with. But then basically seemed to draw the conclusion that therefore, whatever the recommendations come from staff, we should approve those, or we should go along with those. And that is not something that I necessarily agree with. I mean, I think as an elected member of the school board, I think it is our job to bring our constituents' perspective on topics related to the running and the functioning of the schools. So it's a big topic. I don't necessarily want to delve into it, but I did want to bring it up after I thought about it, to basically say I think that's kind of a major point of maybe even contention within the board. And maybe we're not as far as it seemed to be in that discussion, but I do look forward to having more discussions with you all about these things and other things in the future. And I do think that was a valuable time, and I hope we can do that again. So thanks.
Anybody else?
I just want to say one more thing that I forgot,
Sure.
because I want to thank Ms. Whittaker and Mr. McKee that I chaired the VSBA regional meeting, and some of you attended with me, and I appreciate that. And we had a great presentation, obviously, with our licensure program, AMPS, and I appreciate you doing that. I know VSBA already recruited you for the annual conference. I understand, and I will be looking forward to the first session, but we got so much attention from everyone. I think they said that it's the most attended regional meeting by especially the board of directors. So that was very good. So thank you. I'm sorry. I
That's awesome. No
passed
problem.
that one.
Anybody else? Okay, Dr. Meyer?
Yes, so first is operating budget tonight. Next week, the Board of Supervisors expect to approve the supplemental appropriation that will allocate the correct state revenue to MCPS. The attached document shows how our final numbers will look after the supplemental appropriation. We'll ask you to approve the final budget showing all these correct numbers at the June 15th school board meeting. Does anyone have any questions regarding this? Okay. Next, the advisory committee memberships. The next 4 agenda items are membership lists for school board committees. These lists are brought for information tonight, and we'll ask you to approve these at the June 15th meeting. Any questions about those for now?
I had a question about, I noticed on several of the committees that we didn't have parents on some of those, right? And I think there were comments made about, sorry, I thought we were going to go through these one by one.
Well, you can, just if you have.
But I think in general, like I don't know that I can see that maybe with the CTE committee, for example, maybe you're not going to have a lot of, parent interest unless there was a parent who happened to be, involved in a company that was sponsoring something like that. But,
Well, I would think with the CET program, it just parents not necessarily being with the company, but just their experience with their.
Sure, yeah. So I think, I guess I don't know if I have, I guess I do have a question, and the question is basically how what is going to be our efforts to try to actually, recruit parents and let people know that these things are available should they want to be on there. But I was looking at, I think maybe the safety committee, the school health advisory committee, and then, so that's one question, and I guess you guys can answer that, and then I had one other thing about this.
Well, I'll just add, they're also teachers, weren't necessarily on some of them.
On some of them, yeah.
No. Yeah.
Gosh, I know my husband wishes he had a mute button for me. I can address the big picture questions, and then we do have the leaders of each of those different groups here, if you want to speak to them specifically. Big picture is, we're revising the process. So I think as we get more through it and more times, we will be able to see different individuals' names coming into the group. So in terms of what we're going to do to seek interest and get more individuals involved, we've created a new application process, which is a Google Docs, and we have that we're making a regular landing page on the school division webpage, and then also one as well that's on each of the different committees' pages, so that if someone went straight there, they could find it, but then also so that they could find it if they're looking as the division as a whole. And then Ms. Drake is also working on doing push-outs to help us seek membership for these advisory committees, as well as then groups are using their own social media to seek more membership as well. I do have to say, I think because of the spring, it was probably not in the forefront of everyone's thinking all of the time, so I think you will see more names coming through. Those committees that said they're still working to seek members to fill some of those roles, the expectation is that they continue to work to seek those members on an ongoing basis, and as they find them, they bring them back to you and add them to the group, so that it's not the committee for the year, but that they are actively continuing to seek the membership for the roles that they don't have filled.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yeah, that explains it, but I do hope that we move in that direction, because the whole point of these committees is to get, is to get outside, input from other stakeholders, and, if we're not going to have parents or, even teachers to some degree, I feel like, that can be part of your own internal meetings and deliberations. So if we're going to, bother to have a committee, it would be nice to, I think it's
Have the wide
paramount.
representation.
Yeah, absolutely. So. All right, and then the second, I guess, observation that I made as I went through these was just that, I know we had some discussions last spring as a board about some of the, the representation from some of the different geographical areas, and I'll just say that as I went through these, we have the name and the role and the community that they represented. I mean, for a lot of this stuff, I just felt like, it'd really be more helpful to know why this person is on the committee. And, I understand that maybe sometimes there could be, privacy issues or something like that. But, in the case of special ed, if there's a parent that has a special ed child, that might be nice to know if that's something we can know, or if we have a community person who's an expert in special ed or something like that. It's just be nice to know. And I think for us as a board, I think as we move forward, and this is that trust piece that Penny had brought up in the board retreat, that I hope we get to a point where we can look at this stuff and go, all right, there's representation from all around the county, and we have really good people, and there's trust that people are looking out for each other, and that we're looking out for each other, for kids in the whole county, and therefore, getting those exact numbers and ratios becomes maybe less important than getting, good people on these committees that can work with everybody and do the best. Anyway, that was just an observation that I wanted to state. So thank you.
Okay, so one of the things that I noticed was the way that folks said they were going to, or trying to recruit, and it seems very narrow. Now, one of the things that we've done as a district to make sure that we're diversifying and making sure that we're reaching in places we haven't reached before, we actively do that and think about it, think outside the box, and quite frankly, just going to PTAs and PTOs is not. If there are parents or community members we want to actually reach, then we need to go into the community and actually reach people, and not just wait for them to come to us, so to speak.
Okay, forgive me, I can't see who's speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you'd have to tell me when it's an opportunity for me to speak, because I do have something I want to add to the CTE board committee. So you let me know when I can. Okay. My concern on that is, and I know we can't have representation from everybody and everything always, but as I was looking through and if I'm too loud, say something too. Um, as I was looking through, it's all higher education people, and being from a career and technical education background, most career and technical education people either work for commission or they don't have a second level education, and that's great. But that doesn't. There's nobody who, and I understand there's a labor representative for Volvo, but that's still someone who's in a paid job with benefits. A lot of career and technical education students and workers do not have anything. We don't make any kind of, and so I think I would like to see someone on there that represents, construction workers, auto mechanics, hairdressers, unless you go to an organized profession with sheet metal working, most of those things are hired on and they're independent contractors. They have no benefits. They have no hourly pay. I think we need somebody that represents that walk of life on one of these committees because that's what they do.
So I absolutely agree.
Any feedback on that?
I agree with you, Jamie, but the representative from Volvo is not a union representative, and that's something that needs to be addressed. And also, not all folks that are in types of skilled trades or trade work are union workers where they have benefits and things like that. Quite frankly, the majority of them are probably more independent. So I agree. Yeah, we need those.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right, but just want to make the point that we don't have union representation on that committee, and that most people are not represented by a union, just like you're saying, even though they should be.
Okay, all those are great points.
Mr. Husband,
I'm seeing
You wanna speak to
everybody
any of
taking
this?
notes.
this is your efforts.
Just a couple of thoughts listening to you. I didn't necessarily hear a direct question. There are parents on the CTE advisory committee, both formally in the role of parent, but also as I was looking through the committee, listening to your words, I think about a third of the committee just happens to be parents of MCPS. It is a rigid committee put forth by the federal government, but that doesn't mean we can't add on. I think that Ms. Franklin and Ms. Bond make a great point. As I look through there, they're absolutely right that there's those are salaried individuals, and I will work harder to get more representation on there. Absolutely.
Great points.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So is this where the discussion?
And next is the gifted discussion, correct?
Yeah, so I think there's two issues I'd like to talk as a board about with related to gifted and anything else that anybody else may want to bring up. But we received an email from the chair of the GAC, the Gifted Advisory Committee, this week, explaining why there had been another delay, I guess, in them sending us their report for their annual report or report for whatever it's called. And my understanding is that those delays don't have to do necessarily with the gifted committee doing anything wrong, but those delays are caused on our side by our staff. And there were we set up. This is the second year in a row that basically the gifted committee has tried to send their report to us, which by state law, they submit a report to us and the superintendent. They've tried to do that twice now, and it seems that twice there just have been issues. And last year, we went through everything we did. That's what caused us to reassess our advisory committees and the roles, and we got all that straightened out. I'm not trying to throw anyone from the committee necessarily under the bus or anyone necessarily from staff under the bus, but I think this is a problem. And, there was, I reached out to, and spoke with the chair, and, there was a staff member, I think it was in the report, that in the email that she sent to us, that there was a staff member that basically told the GAC chair to go around their own bylaws, and the way to do that was to address Marty Graham in doing that. And so the first issue is the us not getting the reports, because I don't, for whatever reason, this committee that we've set up is somehow not allowed or not being permitted to basically give us the recommendations that they have come up with. And the second issue that has come to my attention is also Ms. Graham's involvement in action as a member of the committee. Now, I don't think I've missed any meetings this year. I don't remember hearing any information at board reports from you, Ms. Graham, about, updates on that committee. And yet, a couple of weeks, 1 or 2 weeks ago, I can dig up the exact date, I think that, there was an attempt made by you to remove the GAC chair as the chair of the GAC, which is something that we as a board cannot do. And certainly one of our members, and we talk a lot about how we can't do anything on our own. So to me, this is a problem that we need to discuss, and we need to come to a solution on, because I'm really not happy about the way things are going with this committee. And it's not because it's not the fault of the committee. I want to make that clear. From the things that I've seen and the things that I've witnessed and the things that I've been told. So if anyone else would like to say something, go ahead.
Okay, so last year we did go round and round and round with this committee. And I think it was in our December meeting, I was very clear that it needed to stop. And I said, if we can't get folks to move forward and do the work that needs to be done, then they need to be replaced, okay? And I still say that about anything. You can't get it done, get out the way. So, with that said, the chair at that time, I think it was that same meeting, was saying either the board needs to get engaged with that process with the gifted committee, and I was like, no, we've got enough to do other than, engage committees that we asked to help us with our decision making. But I was also asked a couple of weeks ago, as Mr. Chewbacca just brought up, to be a part of a conversation with the committee chair. And it was very enlightening. And one of the takeaways for me was that the committee, or at least the chair, is being told, you're not supposed to bring things or talk about issues that the staff are experts on because they know what they're doing, and you're not supposed to be. Well, yeah, we ask folks to be on committees because we want them to bring stuff from the outside or observations or whatever. So to tell a committee member, no, you're not supposed to be saying things that hurt the feelings of our staff people, or, that's just not right. So I got a different perspective on what actually some of the issues are with that committee. And I'm just tell you, I'm really, really frustrated and kind of done with this whole thing about experts, because I don't know who says who's an expert. We have some wonderful, good people working in this district, but I don't know if anybody has qualified for an expert on anything. You might have a lot of knowledge. I got a lot of knowledge on some stuff, but that doesn't make me an expert. And to say to a parent, no, that's not right, when the parent may be experiencing that, because I know as a parent things that were going on with my children, and I raised them and I was told, no, that's not correct. Well, yeah, it was correct. Because my child knows what was going on. I've had observed what was going on, had heard from other folks about things that were going on in the school system. But because we weren't experts, we were supposed to just take the word of people who were saying, no, that's not happening. Right? And this is what I got from that phone call, is that no, you can't say those things because other people say it's not true or that it is happening. Well, that's not always true. We have a wonderful system, but sometimes the things that are supposed to be happening are not always happening. And I very much rely on folks who speak to me to let me know when things aren't happening the way we expect them to happen. And I have raised that point here over the years. So I personally would like to apologize for comments that I may have made about that committee and the leadership or members from our community, because I don't think I was getting a clear picture as to not everything, but some of the things that were going on and the frustration of, as a committee member, being told, no, you can't say that because that hurts people's feelings, or no, you can't say that because this is happening because our experts say it is happening. So we need to get this whole expert thing under control and start listening to folks to help them help us be the best that we can be. And if it is, everything is good, hey, we're good. But if it's not, then we're better, because now we're doing something that's going to make sure we're serving all of our students and taking more things into consideration to make it the best place they can be. So yeah, I'm kind of done with this whole thing.
So I have been asked by administration as the chair to be an ex officio member of the GAC. The GAC was taking up a considerable amount of time and effort on the administration staff, as well as a very large attorney fee for helping them get things straightened out. And that's where we got to where the bylaws were that we approved. At that first meeting, the chair tried to remove those bylaws and institute some of their own. This was after the board had already approved these bylaws. So when I started attending the meetings were very specific to what a few people, even one or two people on the committee wanted to accomplish. And I'm sorry I don't have all the rules in front of me. I may have to ask for Ms. Whitaker's help with this, but the purpose of the GAC is really a checks and balances, just like it is with all of our other advisory committees. And so that was definitely not happening. The committee was very condescending and derogatory towards the GRTs that were doing a majority of the work on the committee. And so in discussion with Ms. Franklin during an agenda prep, we talked about what was happening, and she got on a call with me and suggested that we ask the chair to step down unless things improve. And we gave a timeline to see if that improvement would happen, and I was going to bring it to the board with a discussion on, what has been happening at the meetings. This is not a control thing, nor is it a political thing. I was protecting our staff. And I had many GRTs that came to me very upset about what was happening in there. Essentially, everything that they were, essentially, it was an educational meeting almost every time because the members that weren't in the school system working required not required, but it ended up having to be a full explanation of all the things that we're doing in the schools that they thought we weren't doing. And Ms. Whitaker's on the call with me. Mr. Polly is on the call with me. They can both attest to what they are seeing and hearing. This is something I would never bring up in public and throw someone under the bus. I felt like this needed to be handled quietly. I did not ask her to resign. I pretty much said, with Ms. Franklin on the call that, things needed to improve. And if not, I would bring those challenges to the board. And that deadline has just come up today, and I have yet to speak to Ms. Franklin or anybody else about it. So I'm personally not going to throw the GAC under the bus. I would prefer that it be handled the way it should be, which is not in a public forum.
I think when you said that you joined basically at the behest of the administration, and whatever disagreements might be between members of the GAC and staff, I think that those disagreements and those perspectives is what needs to filter up to us. If they want to paint the inside of every gifted room pink and bolt desks to the ceiling, and we think it's the most ridiculous thing, if that's what the committee comes up with, that's what should come to us. And I think that this process between you and the administration, I think I think in some ways it's improper. I have had conversations with Ms. Whitaker. I understand that sometimes there can be difficulties, whether it's with various staff or committee members, parents. There's difficulties in just starting a public committee like we did last year. And so I think there's some growing pains that are going to be associated with that. But we're losing sight of why the committee exists in the first place. It's not to filter every concern and every suggestion and everything that comes from the committees, and that we filter out everything, and we, meaning staff, we MCPS staff, filter things out so that what comes before the board is something that has been, cleaned up by our staff. It should be something that comes from the committee, and if that process is a problem, if the committee is a problem, if it takes too long to teach lay people, parents to be on these committees, well then, we can reassess that at the time. But that's the process, and I don't think. As far as you said that the committee was being derogatory. I don't know that it's our.
I didn't say the committee.
That's the direct quote. I wrote it down.
I said there were people on the committee that were being derogatory to others on the committee that are the GRTs.
Okay, fine. If that's what you meant, I accept it. But nonetheless, like what Ms. Franklin said, what may come across as, well, so-and-so's being derogatory to me. If I disagree with somebody, I've had members of the public write me emails telling me that I'm disrespectful because I disagree with something. That, just because we have to let the committee do its work, I guess, is what I'm saying.
And they worked together, and they made decisions together, and they voted on it.
Then why don't we have a report that they released weeks ago?
I have to say, I don't know why we don't have the report. I know that it was approved at the last meeting. I can tell you when the last meeting was. I don't know whether the chair should have sent
I
it?
have not received the report personally to load into board docs. I'm not sure. She meant Dr. Wickham earlier in the meetings. I'm not a member of that committee, but I haven't received anything from the chairman of the board to upload into board docs to give to you. So if I had that, it would be coming forward to you. We haven't received it to give to you all. So, Dr. Meyer, I don't think anybody has received it. That might be part of the confusion, was before it used to come to us, but now it's not to come to us, it's to come directly to you and the superintendent. So I have not received that, and if you haven't, then they haven't sent it to you
Right.
all.
It's not due
It's
to
just a
us
shift,
until
I think.
July the
The
7th.
email, she sent it to us and sent it to us that May 25th, she has asked Ms. Neff to submit already approved report
Okay.
to superintendent and to the board.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
the email dated May 25th.
Okay, I have
now I
not
don't know
seen
where
that,
the
so I will
report
check
is.
on that for you. If you don't mind, I did just want to answer a couple questions that you had. First is that with the committee reporting directly to the board, we did ask Ms. Graham for some guidance as the chairman of the board. In doing our research, we saw that the policy states, policy 1-3.2, that the chairman of the board is the ex officio member on all committees of the board. And so when I had asked her for her guidance of, we need a little bit more of assistance because, as she shared, the bylaws had literally just gone through months of approval, and the first thing was taking them back to the committee to change the bylaws. Some members of that committee were very confused as to what was happening. So I think the second piece, too, just to keep in mind, is we have to look at the committee as a whole. So if we can separate the reports of individuals from reports of the committee, I don't think unless the whole committee has an opportunity to speak for themselves, we really know the viewpoint of the whole committee, unless you look at their votes. And the things that they vote upon are the things that the committee as a whole determines. Because one member of a committee feels one way does not necessarily mean that's the will of that group. It means it's the will of that individual, and the vote of the group is the will of the group. And so I think that is what I see speaks for the committee, is the things that they vote upon and approve and send out. I do think that there's been a lot of round and round. There were meetings that went hours and hours and hours. People were screaming at each other and yelling at each other, and so we were asked to help. We were asked to get involved because it was a very uncomfortable situation. And so that was when we did reach out and say, what is the next step? Because we felt like we had gone through months and months and months of one-to-one meetings. I personally met with the individual for hours and hours. We incurred attorney's fees to help us walk through the bylaws, to help explain these. And that was not something that got to where we needed to be, and so we did reach out for some additional help in what that should look like. And so Ms. Graham was watching those videos. They're available for anybody. I think that might be a good place to get a good understanding of what's happening, as all those meetings are recorded, so you can go back and watch and kind of see what happened in those. But I think, again, it's just keeping in mind it's a committee. So what comes forward from that committee is the will of the whole group, and so really it's hard to allow any of us to speak for them when that committee as a whole is not here. We could certainly ask them to come and speak to you. We did not ask that anybody come today. Again, I didn't have that with me, or I would have offered that opportunity, if it had gone through board docs. So I'll address that as to kind of why it's not up for us yet at this time.
And the reason their membership isn't on here is because there was a miscommunication as to when they had to have that turned in, because essentially they don't have to have I believe this date is right, the report to us until July. But their membership runs on it runs July 1st to the end of June. And so there was a miscommunication as to when they needed to submit, because they have one member that's rolling off, when they needed to submit the new membership list. So there has been a lot of confusion, not just on their end, but our end. And they're trying to navigate this, and they have questions about board governance during the meeting, and that's really usually all that I provide, other than just observe.
One thing I would like to make a point, because when we talk about the other committees, we never separate parents against staff members, because staff members are the committee members too. So it's not just the parents are the committee members. So we have to make sure we don't, talk about parents are doing this, staff is not doing that, or, as if like they have an argument between each other. But if that's the case, that's a different issue that we have to address, obviously. But the committee as a whole, parents and the staff members are together making decisions.
Well, Ms.
And,
Karan, if I
that's-
could point out too, there's several staff members that are parents. So,
That's
I
true
mean,
too.
So here's the piece that stands out for me. Now, yeah, the frustration about the round and round with the bylaws. The bylaws are what they are. We as a board said this is what they are. But when we talk about this committee being a check and balance, and what we're checking and what's being balanced is what is put forward by the staff. Am I correct? Or what our plan says at this time?
Yes, so they're not a checks and balances committee, they're not evaluative. They have two main purposes. So the first purpose is to review the plan that is brought forward by the committee. And the second is to determine the extent to which the actual plan was implemented. So not to say, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, because those things were not in the plan, but to say, here is what the plan that was approved, here's what rolled out, and here's the effectiveness of what you did with that plan. So those are the two things. One, to review the plan, and then two, to look at the effectiveness of the actual plan that was in place. Those are the two roles of that committee. In terms of statements about GRTs are not doing this, or this person isn't doing this, and, in my room specifically, if it was about an individual, we're always going to ask that complaints about individuals be made through the correct personnel processes, so that if somebody had a concern, we would want them to report that concern and use the processes we have in place so that we can investigate, any concerns like that. So again, I haven't been there to hear the comments about specific people in person, but I have heard frequently that there are comments made about people not doing what they are supposed to be doing in an evaluative nature, not a program nature.
And I apologize, I used the wrong wording.
Okay, so I could understand there may be a rub about using individuals' names, but if the plan says this is what's supposed to be happening and it's not consistently happening, then it's a legitimate concern to bring that up, right? Sure. And this is where I have an issue that folks are being told that what you're saying is not valid. If what they're saying makes people feel bad because they're pointing out individuals, then, okay, you feel bad about that. But we still need to be looking into what actually is happening, because that's part of what the plan is about, making sure this is happening.
You are correct. And to make the point about, somebody saying that's not happening, none of the committee members are saying that. They're given a full explanation of what is happening when those things are brought up. Some of those things are one individual matter that, as Ms. Whitaker said, should be investigated through the appropriate channels. There has been no overall, we see that we're missing this part of the plan, and if there was, then it would be documented in the final report to us.
But I believe how this is being seen by a committee member or a few committee members is, and I think I kind of feel the same way, if there is an issue, a part of the plan that is not being executed consistently across the district, then the plan is not working, and it needs to be addressed. And if it's coming through the committee that this is something that needs to be addressed because it says it's part of your plan and it's not happening consistently across the district, then it's a legitimate concern. and a legitimate thing to be bringing up in this committee meeting because they're reviewing the plan, right?
Absolutely. And there was none of that during the meetings that I attended. There was no overall reaching, we're missing this part, this is not being done across the board.
Then I'm
I don't want to get into the weeds about the work that the committee did or that you did with the committee. I think, we've already talked about some of the high-level stuff, and the stuff that's been even conveyed and said here is still problematic. And I think Ms. Graham, you said that you never threatened to remove the chair, and I think that threat was conveyed. That's what the chair heard. I don't know, Ms. Franklin was at that meeting, so, I don't know if there were other conversations outside of that. But if that conversation could have been reasonably conveyed as a threat to be removed. The other thing that I was told, and again, I mean, if we want to get to the bottom of this, it would probably require a school board investigation, which I don't really want to go there, right? But I was also told that you expressed that there were problems with the recommendations of the committee. So we have a board member coming into another committee and telling them, you need to change these recommendations. That's not, first of all, the chair of that committee can't do that no sooner than you can change things for us, right? It has to go back to the committee and that type of a thing. And the committee had already spoken at that point, and it still has. And the reason that it does bring me no joy to bring this up in public right now, all right? But the reason that I do, all right, is because the silence on this and kind of the stuff happening behind the scenes, I am concerned that we are not going to get a full picture from the committee. And so I think that's why it has to be brought up. And that's why I'm bringing it up. And I think there was a threat conveyed, and I think it's wrong. And for me personally, I appreciate what the administration was trying to do, but having a board member basically come in and be an extension of what staff is trying to do, I don't know that that's appropriate either. And I think it's problematic. I think your attendance on that committee, at least by yourself at this point, is potentially problematic. And, if it's the administration's will or the board's will, I think either we should have somebody else be on that committee with you, or none of us be on that committee. But I think that, I think what's happening right now is, you can say that none of these things are happening, but that's the feedback that I'm getting is that they are happening.
From one person.
So let me
From more than one person. But
let me lay out how the conversation with the board chair came about. So in agenda prep, Marty was talking about how things were going with the committee. And quite frankly, what she said she was going to report to the board did not reflect her comments about what she felt was going on, how the committee was going. So I said, if she's going to give a report to this board about the committee, then she needs to give a true report about that, and not one that is just kind of massaging things. Okay? So from that, I reiterated how I felt because of what I had heard from the past several months, that if folks needed to go, they needed to go. So Marty communicated with me that, or somehow or another, it came about that we have a phone call, a meeting with the chair, and I don't think it was a threat. It was not. To help them understand that the report was due, it was due by this date, and it needed to move on. We had been going round and round and round with this, and the report needed to go on, needed to be completed. There were concerns from the chair about recommendations and how that was being handled. And my comments to them was that the report needed to be done as to however it was, and if there were issues that were not being addressed through the committee, through the report, then there was an outlet for them to come and address the board about concerns with the gifted program, through email, through whatever, but that report needed to get done, okay? And through the budget process, if there were positions they felt needed to be added, They needed to be speaking during that process too. But this report needed to get done. And if they did not feel that they could make that happen, or if it did not happen, then there may need to be a change. And that would be that there would be a recommendation from Ms. Graham that action be taken to remove the chair to the board, not her on her own, okay? So at this point, we have no report. So we have no action at this time because we keep going round and round with this. That report needs to be done, plain and simple.
And
It
in the
needs to be done.
GAC's defense, they did finish it on the 10th.
And if
and
it's-
voted on
If
it.
it is done, then it needs to be given to the
On the
body,
10th, that's,
to the body,
Yeah.
which is us, to be able to review that report as it was submitted. If there are still concerns, as I told the chair then, and I'll say again now, then they need to come and speak to the board if they so choose. They need to contact us as individual board members and express their concerns, which she has. But we needed to move on with this process.
yeah, no, I
Okay.
think we're saying the same thing. I think,
Okay.
Yeah, so-
So I guess, Ms. Whitaker, is the right path now that, that Ms. Naff reaches out to the GAC chair and finds out where the report is, or what is the right path?
Yes,
Because I
if
know
you're
there-
saying that the email came through on May 25th, then I would assume if Ms. Naff was on that email, that she does have that. So I've already got it down to email, contact her tomorrow so that we can get that to you all immediately, get it on the agenda for the next meeting. I would bet she did intentionally keep it, from going forward. It's a new, with the process the way that it is, but it certainly is not a good thing that you guys don't have it.
Right.
So I will make sure that you get that immediately. I apologize, it was not in a timeline that I had given to them what day to give it to me on, so I wasn't searching that out. So I'll put that on my agenda for next year as well, to make sure that I'm actively seeking it from them.
I think it's not due until July the 7th, so there's actually some time for them to get it to us, but there has to be a holdup somewhere. If the board approved it on
Yeah.
the 11th, then I don't know where it's stalled at. I don't think it's stalled with the chair.
No.
Like-
I would say that it's with the Office of Primary Responsibility, which is here
Yeah.
in the school board office, so I will make sure you get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
thank you.
But they did agree and went over it very well, and all came to the same conclusions about what the goals were that they'd like to see improve on, or things that we're already doing very well. Much like we do with our own staff's evaluations, just at a much higher level. But I do feel like that they worked very well together on the committee to come up with those items.
I would think it being a board committee, because it's a board, it's y'all's committee now.
Right.
It shouldn't come through us, because I don't know why somebody on the GAC sent it to someone.
I think it might be just off the top of my head. I think it might be a permissions issue on who owns the Google Doc. I'm just saying.
I don't know. What I would like to see is this.
I could think of.
I would like to see it come straight from
The GAC.
the GAC to
Yeah.
you.
Agree.
And not go through us. I'm fine with that. So if someone in our office has it, I prefer that it not be sent to the board by us, that whoever sent it to whomever in our office sends it straight to the school board.
Right.
Can't
So
we
can
just
we-
request that they resubmit it to us?
Yeah.
And we have. It sounds like, again, I think it's a permissions issue on.
From who?
On the
Why not
Google
just
Doc?
email the chair and say, hey, can you send us another, can you directly email us another copy? The end.
What may have happened, and I don't know this is the case, is in the past, this is the way it's happened. And before it became a school board committee, it used to go through that
Right.
sort of chain. Now this is a school board committee, it shouldn't come through our central office, it just comes straight to you.
Right.
And we all get a copy of it and just take a look at it. including us, as well.
So some of this
And
is
so-
growing pains. And again, I think it's as simple as not being able to have that document to send to us. You can edit it, but I don't know what you have to do.
Well, it doesn't feel that way.
Well, we will get,
Yeah. They worked on it. I watched them work on it during the meeting.
Oh, I believe they worked on it, and I
sorry?
believe they completed it.
I just have the email. I don't have the report.
It sounds like, yeah, we all got that email. It sounds like
Yeah.
it's sitting in someone's office right now and just has never been sent to us.
Right.
That's what it sounds like to me.
from now on, it's going to come directly to you folks
Right.
and not to anybody in our office.
Right. And we'll work on that. Again, that's growing
Yeah.
pains.
That's,
Yeah.
because I don't
thank
want
you.
to be perceived as we're trying to control something because we're not.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So,
So are you all, I'm sorry, I just want, you guys are gonna contact them directly and ask
I-
anyone to send it to you?
I guess I need to get with Ms. Naff and understand why
I'll take care of that, but in terms of
why
getting the
Anna,
reports directly
why
to
the
you.
chair can't
I
send
don't-
it to us.
I don't see why we need to go to Ms. Naff and ask her anything. I think you go directly to the chair of the GAC and say, could you please send me another copy? Has nothing to do with Ms. Naff.
yes, I think that'd be fine. So, yeah, Ms. Cram, do you mind doing
Yes,
that? Just
I will
asking
do
for that
I will do that first thing in the
from,
morning.
from the,
Yeah.
whoever's in charge of that committee. Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yep.
The next item on our agenda, Dr. Meyer?
All right. Let's see here. All right. Ms. Whitaker's going to come up and, just starting a discussion tonight about considerations for the start of next school year. Taking our old plan from this past year, we went through it, looked at it, a lot of stuff just automatically has changed just because of the conditions of everything. But looking at, okay, where do we need board input from? But you're certainly welcome to read the entire plan and look at it and bring up other things as well that we're not bringing to your attention. If you like to have input on those areas as well, feel free to have this discussion. But basically, Ms. Whitaker is going to go through. We got about 4 points that we want you all to have a discussion about, and so we can hear and listen. And then from tonight's conversation, we'll continue it in a couple of weeks. So hopefully then we can have a plan to approve on July 13th, which is when we need to approve something. But of course, also understanding too, things will continue to change. We know that, but based on guidance of CDC, VDH, VDOE, those kinds of things. And so, anyway, Ms. Whitaker?
Yes, sir. So as Dr. Myers said, we have 4 different stopping points in the old return to schools plan that we're going to stop at naturally. But if at any point you say, hey, we really want to talk about these things, please let us know. So what you see here is the return to schools plan from this year. And we went through and redlined those components that would be removed from the return to schools plan. And then in green, we have highlighted the areas for discussion. We'll also take notes on anything you want added in. So the first topic, or let me tell you all 4, you have that in the board brief, but just so we have an overview before we start. The first is notifications for positive cases. We're going to ask for feedback on community requests for indoor facility use, on following the guidance regarding face coverings and masks and physical distancing as provided by the BDOE and governor's executive orders, and then also on field trips, and we'll stop through each of those. So we just have the table of contents here, and I'm just going to scroll through until either we get to the first topic, which is the notifications on positive cases, or if you guys wanted me to stop at an earlier place, I can do that. You can see I'm not going to go through each one, I forgot. So Sorry, I'm trying to get there. I apologize.
I think it's page 15.
Is there a page, oh, here, page 14
14.
is your first green.
There we go. So it's on page 14, thank you. So the discussion point, as you can see, we redlined what we had in place before, and so that what we would like from you all is guidance on notification for positive cases.
So, does anyone want to start the discussion?
I kind of wanted to start the discussion maybe just a step back.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, just in general, that like, I don't know, like, I just feel like we're kind of jumping right into the details again, which.
Yeah, I think we need to give them guidance on what type of notifications we want going forward for positive cases.
Yeah, I realize that that's the question in front of us, but I mean, when we talk about, this is the first time that we as a board have sat down to talk about reopening for next year, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we haven't had any.
We haven't had any.
We're
open or
already in the
public
weeds here, and we haven't even entered the forest.
Yeah.
Or
So
entered the garden, I don't know.
I just wanted to share my high-level thinking and hopefully maybe hear yours too, because hopefully we'll find that there's a lot more commonality maybe this year than the last time we went through this exercise. But, you know, my thinking, of course, is that, you know, I've kind of been offhandedly saying we'll go back to normal except for masks, you know? That was kind of my expectation. And that's still kind of my expectation, is that, I mean, certainly I think there's going to be some divide that's going to affect the answer to some of these questions when we talk about elementary versus middle versus high school, right? Because half of our, you know, kids in high school will have had the opportunity to get the vaccine by the fall, and maybe roughly half of our kids in middle school, maybe 12 and up, right? So that's
Theoretically, they should.
theoretically.
All 12 and up is really middle and high school.
Secondary. So that would be all secondary.
There's going to be some
schools,
sixth
but-
graders that are
Yeah,
going to
sixth graders
fall
could
in
be
the
10 and
11,
that's true.
11-year-olds. So, so I think for me that does inform my decision making on some of this. But the other positive thing, I mean, if you look at our case numbers in the community, I mean, we're down to, I think our 7-day average is like, what, 2, Mr. Garrison? Is that right? Somewhere around 1 or 2? And it may even be further down by the time we get to school. So I think that, you know, the risk is very low. So I am definitely, you know, thinking more along the lines of doing things normally, possibly, you know, obviously, I think the mask mandates, we'll have to kind of wait and see what's going on with those. Especially, I could be open to relaxing those, especially at the high school, middle school level, depending on, you know, the governor's guidance there. Where I'm a little more concerned, you know, in elementary, we still have kids who cannot be vaccinated, and so I think we have to work a little bit harder to take their concerns and their health into account. And other than that, I mean, I'm willing to share my thoughts tonight, but also would like us to have would like the public to also weigh in to us after hearing us, you know, have these discussions. So.
Yeah, one of the green points coming up is actually mask. That's a big decision.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And of course, you know, one thing that, you know, we'll have guidance from the VDH, probably CDC, and the Department of Education. You know, I guess the question is, do we follow the guidance of those, you know, of those departments or not? You know, when they do come up, and we don't know what they're going to be. You know, when it does come.
Yeah.
I could see this changing all the way up to after Labor Day, even. You know, and so.
Yeah, I guess when I first looked at this, I would have started from a different starting point. I would have started from the starting point of how things were before COVID and what we might need to change because of what might still kind of exist, as opposed to starting from this, which is like a really, you know, how much time and effort went into putting all these plans together, and there's so many details and so much there. It would be almost like I'd rather start with whatever our starting plan, and maybe we don't have a plan because it was just the normal operations, but whatever our plan was in July 2019, and
Right.
amend that plan.
That's what this is.
But this is 2020, so this is This is what we did for 2020.
Right, okay, yeah, this is what we
I'm
did.
talking about starting with 2019 when things were,
Starting
I
with
hate using the
normal,
word
basically,
normal
yeah.
because when things, before the pandemic, pre-pandemic, starting with pre-pandemic ideals, and then what do we need to fix, possibly work on to get us where we need to be in September, with the hope that we can be more like pre-pandemic than
Right.
during pandemic.
Right. And I think what our staff did was pretty much, you'll see most of it marked out in this entire document because it pretty much is pre-pandemic. We didn't have a plan in 2019 per se.
Right.
But what we've done is marked out things that are basically, we don't feel are relevant anymore. But there are a few points that are relevant that we like your input and discussion on. And so, these are things we definitely need to hear what you got to say because for one, you all made the decision on many of these, like this discussion point on notifications. How do we go forward and notify folks? One of the next green points is mask. What are we going to do with mask? What does that look like?
I think masks is something that we'll have to discuss. I
Yeah.
think
And it's-
notification, notify us of what? Hopefully there's not a whole lot to notify on.
Well, no, but that's the question.
Do we need to continue?
Yeah, and that's it. And so we need to know, what level of notification do you think our community deserves and
That's
should
hard to answer
get?
now. I just think it's hard to really.
What's everyone else's?
Well, my answer to that was, I answer all those points. My head, of course, knowing what I know now, obviously not knowing what's going to happen in the next couple months. In terms of, notification, I thought this will maintain the dashboard and let everybody know that dashboard exists. And we may not have any case, but then we may have a case somewhere, now hopefully not, and then that dashboard will show. I don't think there's any what we know now, again, I don't think it's necessary to say that we're going to call people, or we can set maybe a cap. If the number goes that high, then we have to notify, but then that will require other changes as well anyway. So, it is, of course, a little hard to make these judgments right now. But I don't think the notification should be how it is right now, or it was a week ago before school ended, beginning of the school year. That's how I felt, knowing what I know now. So, but I thought we shouldn't get rid of the dashboard. I think it's good to have that dashboard to let people know that they can still look and feel good, anything in their school or not. That's my opinion.
Dana, did
Okay, so I took some notes too, and I'm kind of with Goonan as far as the notifications. I don't think at this point that we have to inundate our parents with phone calls. And Mr. Garrison, as much as I love your voice,
He's smiling behind the
that
mask. Just to let
same
you know.
spiel every day. I think that, and I have talked to some other parents who love your voice and the information. However, I do believe it's just human nature that once you're inundated with something over and over and over again, I know parents that have missed important school information because they see MCPS come up on their phone and they're like, oh, well, this is just about the COVID. I'm not answering that. So I think some important information is getting possibly missed due to the over, and I'm not trying to say that we didn't do right and let everyone know by sending out that information. But I just think it has gotten to the point now to where I think if you inundate someone in that way, they might miss out on things that they should be picking up the phone and listening to. And we have always used the phone as a backup communication to our community. So I would hate for someone to say, oh, well, I didn't get that phone call, but it was because I didn't answer the phone every time because I thought it was going to be. That's just something to throw out there for people to think about. I think with the numbers as low as they are and the great things that we've done in the schools now, as far as vaccinations, being able to get our students vaccinated at the secondary level, and all of the precautions and everything that we've taken, I have to agree. I think if we update the dashboard, I think at this point, unless we have something horrible, knock on something, happen to where we might need to do something more than that, come about. But at this point, and Dr. Meyer, does everyone still have the MiFi where everyone should be able to get on the website and see?
Yes.
I mean, in every community, do we have, are we covered where people can't say, well, we weren't connected to the Wi-Fi, we weren't able to see just to make sure that everyone can obtain that information?
That's, I can't tell you 100% that's the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But if they have trouble doing that, that's something we could make sure that was communicated to them by them either calling the school or some other form of communication.
Possibly figure that out.
Even if we have to send out mailings every, I don't know, every other week, once a month, something. So
Yeah.
those are just my thoughts. And
You know-
I do get those phone calls. I was one to get the phone calls all the time. And Mr. Garrison, I answered every one.
Well,
I answered every one.
I get the phone calls as well, and I don't. And basically, what's been happening is you're right. I mean, we had some very important phone calls that went out towards the end of the school year that people didn't get, and because we have inundated them with it, and I think it's communication. Communication is very, very important that we need it in this situation. But I think it sort of it hurt us in the end with some things we really need to get out. So.
So is there a way for folks to opt into the phone call if they want it? And if they don't,
Opt into COVID calls, basically, is what you're saying?
yeah.
I think if that's something the board wanted, we could brainstorm how to figure that out. We certainly do that with delay closings. If you opted in, you would be opting in for the entire division. You'd be opting in for
Not
a
just for
call
your
for
school.
every school.
Well, that's your choice. Because not everybody would be able to go online.
That's true.
If you want to opt in to make sure that you're getting that information, because I am sure in the very beginning, folks are going to want to know what's going on for the first couple of months, what's going on, or a couple of weeks. And hopefully there will be nothing going on, right?
Well, yeah, and I would hope that. However, we'll still have cases, and it's just how much folks hear. Something else that we can consider too, instead of a phone call, is text messaging these out. So it's not a phone call, but a text that goes. Can we do that, Brenda? We can't.
I'm just going to tell you, not everybody has a cell phone. As much as everybody believes that, I work with people who do not have cell phones.
Right now, we don't sync up our parents into texting. So Mr. Garrison couldn't log in and say, for Blacksburg Middle, I'm only going to email message. Parents don't go into text. So we do text for snow closings and delays. That process isn't syncing up with our student information system. That process is syncing up with a back-end file sync that's happening through the process where you fill out that form online and on the web. It's something, text messaging for our parents and our families is something we have wanted to turn on. We were ready to turn on. We all know when it was going to happen, right? It was going to happen in the summer of 2020. And we thought that it wasn't the time to add one more thing to our families because there is an implementation process that occurs where there's an app that comes on the phone and then they have to designate how they want to get everything. And that learning curve just seemed too much to put on our families as we were dealing through this. So we can't text message. We could if we did the opt-in. So we could do an opt-in that's like delay closing, if that's the will of the board, where you say, if you go to our form, you can say, I want a phone call, I want a text message, I want an email. And I think we could set up something kind of similar to that, where you could say how you wanted it. But again, you would get it for every school, or maybe it's the weekly report that Mr. Garrettson puts together for you all, and that's what goes out. So will of the board, we'll absolutely brainstorm to make whatever you want to have happen. Any other questions about our communication system and how they work?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I know that our dashboard is certainly the most comprehensive and robust in the state. And I see the point about people not always having access to the internet to get to it. And I also see the point if there's a major, outbreak or something that we would, of course, follow our normal procedures, just like we would if we had the flu in a school, which we've done before. And I think that procedure's already in place.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that if we had a major incident and we had several cases in one place, I think we would sort of put into place what we do for the flu.
Exactly.
And that is send notices home. We would just use that procedure, if that's okay for that.
And again, we're just talking tonight. We don't have to
Yeah.
make a final decision. And we're just brainstorming.
Thank goodness.
I mean, my inclination is to do the dashboard. I think we can, I hear what you're saying, Penny. If there's demand for that, I think that would be fine. I don't know that we should do it if there really isn't the demand for it. I do think that in 2021, that maybe we should start thinking about whatever we need to do, changes to our communication system to allow any message to go out via text. I mean, I think, I just think that's the way people communicate. It's the preferred mode of communication for probably an overwhelming majority of parents, and it's more time efficient for everyone out there to just look at the text and quickly scan it than to sit and listen to somebody talk. So, I think, I'm not saying we have to do it by a certain time, but I think that's something we probably should invest in, and then it will become moot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, most folks are, most do have cell phones, I would say, and that's a way a lot of folks communicate, and they prefer to look at a text as opposed to actually answering a phone call, and because they can do it quickly. So we'll look into that and see if that's something we can upgrade.
But I'm also, this is my inclination, but I'm also wanting to kind of hear, especially from elementary parents, they might want more information. I don't know. Maybe as long as our case numbers stay low, maybe that demand isn't there either. But
Well, I'm all about the text, Mark, and I'm going to bite off on that if you don't mind. But if it was something like we're going to have to close school at 1 because we're flooding, like we had that incident, I guess, was it a couple years ago, where I want a phone call because I can't always immediately look at my text. So there's people I know that get text and they might not see it for hours. So if I think it depends on the severity of the
emergency.
issue. Something like the COVID, I don't think I think text is fine, but if it was something more serious as to where it's going to interrupt a parent's daily schedule or something of more severity, possibly both.
Like we're closing early type of thing.
Absolutely.
but I think that's the
Right.
point of, I mean, if we kind of have that right now where you can choose whether you want an email or a phone call.
Or all
right?
of them.
Or
Yeah.
both. But
Right.
I think what I'm saying is that adding text to that just as a choice is probably something,
absolutely.
somewhere where we need to be.
Yeah.
Well, it's concerning to me that we're starting to talk about COVID as not being severe. It's not the flu, okay? So reporting it like we do the flu, that concerns me. An emergency situation like flooding or whatever, I understand that is, we need to make sure folks are aware what's going on. But COVID is the same thing. If we aren't cautious and we let our guard down around this, we're going to end up in the same situation because those vaccines are not 100% and they don't last forever. So I think it's important that we still take this very seriously and not be using terminology that says it's COVID, right? Well, yeah, COVID, millions of people have died, and they've died very quickly. We've gotten very, very ill, and those long haulers, I feel so sorry for some of those folks. Well, for all those folks. So we need to really stop talking about COVID like it's not serious.
Does anybody else have any more comments on this line item? Okay.
Jamie? Is Jamie still with us?
I'm here. I agree with everything everybody said. I'm still here. No, but I will say, I can't remember who made a comment about where we would start the discussions on all this. Every one of these line items is what I've been approached from community members about. So I'm really glad we're talking about these line items because those are the four things that I've heard from people. So, but just listening to good discussion from everybody, and I'm glad we're starting to talk about even to use indoor facility use. I've already been approached by that. When are we going to start? Field trips already been asked. People want to know these things. They want to know when masks are going to come off and what's happening. I get we don't have the answers for everything, but these are questions I've already been approached with. So, anywho.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Thanks, Jamie. Just speak up whenever you need to.
So the next point for
Thank you.
I'm sorry. The next point for discussion is community use of indoor facilities and spaces. So currently, we're allowing those, or we were allowing those use of spaces, provided that the organization agrees to the MCPS health and mitigation strategies, is what we would put forward for a discussion point.
Do you guys mind if we let Jamie go first? I know she has some specifics on this. Jamie, do you want to go ahead and talk about what you told me last night?
Okay, yeah, I know, like the Kiwanis Club has used the high school to do concerts for fundraising. I know they've already kind of said, because last year it was canceled and they have deposits out, so they're kind of wondering, okay, do we need to contact these groups and find out if they're going to be able to come and perform, or should they try to get their money back? And so there's a lot of unanswered questions for people that they're not trying to be disrespectful to what's happened, just the fact they need to know how to move forward. So.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, ideas, suggestions? Do we think
I'm inclined to allow it in our high schools. I'm a little bit more leery on the elementary schools and middle schools, because if you have, you could bring in, if there's any risk there, I guess. But at the same time, when I really think about the risk from I don't know.
It's usually after hours.
After
So it's
hours,
not while
yeah.
our kids are actually there that we're renting our facilities, right, Mr. Krantz? It's usually after hours, weekends, those types of times.
What are we doing now? Nothing, right? We're not allowing them
No,
to
we're
use
not,
them at all.
nothing.
Okay.
We did move to do outdoor stuff and start renting out our outdoor spaces as long as they were in compliance
Okay.
with what we do. And but indoor, it's a little more sensitive and sort of.
Do groups use the indoor space in our elementary schools?
Yes.
Before this? For what kinds of things? Can
We
you
rent,
give me?
we rent out so much. We have tons of rentals from
Anything,
Yeah, I
Boy
mean, it's
Scouts and
churches,
churches,
rent,
and-
and so it's a lot of rent.
I don't want to get into the nitty gritty about it, but I just will say that I have concerns about, we have an elementary population that cannot, at least at this moment, cannot be vaccinated. And
But they're not in the school. The groups aren't in the school while students are there.
I realize that. We can talk about the science behind that, I guess, but that's where my reservations are. So anyway.
Is there a way we can see about maybe doing some type of special deep cleaning if we would like to have groups from the outside come in, maybe at least starting out? I know that there again,
Yeah,
that's,
we can-
that's
yeah,
staff
right.
and that's
Here's-
custodial after hours work weekends. I don't
Right.
know how that would work.
Well, and they
But-
do, when a group does use our facilities, they pay for the custodial staff.
So could we get that as an additional charge to a group that wanted
Well,
to use our?
Yeah, here's my thoughts on that. We've learned a lot this year. All right, a whole lot. We know a lot more now than we did last summer. And what we've learned is we overkill cleaning.
Yes,
And
surface
because
cleaning,
surface transmission is very unlikely. The transmission that could occur the most is through ventilation. And so, that's the number one concern. And so, we can ask some experts on this, and there are experts on this for sure that we've already talked to. After hour use, I would not think that it would be a danger with our units and what we've put into our buildings through the HIPAA units and those types of things for any transmission to occur during any events after school.
I would just, I would just think that we could require them to follow the governor's, executive orders and the VDOE guidelines that we're already following,
Right. I mean,
whatever
it's-
those might be at that time frame. As we know, they'll be changing.
Everything y'all said is correct. The challenge we have is staffing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already have pushed our staff
Yeah.
to levels that are unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we've got to understand, what the facilities team did and the custodial team did just to get graduation, and the hours they put in of 16 and 17-hour days, and then turn around and did it Saturday night and Sunday and Monday. But now we're asking custodians to do that, and that's where the push is. And I think you got to understand, are we to open schools for educational purposes, which I believe is our primary mission, or do you open it for outside agencies?
Are you saying, Tommy, that
However, I'm sorry, Mark. I was just going to say I agree 100%, and that's what I was going to say. I'm staying right beside an airport, so a plane was flying over, so I had to mute real quick. But that's what I was going to say, and maybe if we chose to go ahead and open up facilities to rent, that would be on them to bring in a cleaning. I know that, well, the question is, well, do you know they really did it or whatever, but I don't want any more on our janitorial or maintenance staff at all. I know they've been reached to the limit with very little appreciation, and I just, and I want to say kudos to them for everything they do. So when I talk about opening, I mean none of that. I was even going to suggest that they bring in an outside source or clean themselves or prepare to our standards.
The challenge I have with that, Ms. Bond, while there's a lot of third parties, is that level of trust and what chemicals are they using, the process they're using, and rightfully so. You're going to hold me accountable that we're clean, that we're doing the things we do every day. And we can clean buildings, don't get me wrong. We can clean it, and our staff does a tremendous job cleaning. I think it's got to be almost a case-by-case basis. I myself personally, is if we've got the ability, we'd love to have people in. But we maybe can't do that on every request that comes in. We have to look at it from a case-by-case basis.
Tommy, what would
That's fair.
what would case by case
Very-
look like? What would be something that maybe disqualifies someone? And
I
do you
mean,
think?
honestly, I can't think of one right now. Like at CHS, we do the dance recital, and Ms. Bond knows which group, I think Ms. Parton knows which group we do.
Yes.
We're able to pull that one off cleaning-wise, and we do fine. We normally do that on a Saturday. It doesn't impact our operation during the week. The thing that I think would be the challenge is something that happens during the week, where we need to get the school ready for the next morning.
Yeah.
And knock on wood, that hasn't happened, but I've seen it in other districts.
Right.
It has not happened here. We've been able to meet any and all needs. We love having the community in. I just would like to have that flexibility.
And we still have the option to delay this part of the decision. We can say, let's reevaluate it in October, or let's reevaluate it in January and see where we're at with things. We still have that opportunity too. We don't have to make a drop dead decision right now on this.
No, but let me just end it with
People
this.
want to rent, they need to know in advance. I think that's what Jamie was trying to say, that people are asking now. Would it be possible to say that we would allow it on weekends?
That's what I was going to say,
And
Sue.
for now, none during the week, so that we would, or make it, it could be Friday nights, Saturdays, Sunday, but so that your staff isn't crunched during the week, and we just don't allow it during the week for now, and
The
maybe
summertime-
for the fall, and that way people have they have a date.
The problem we run into the fall is athletic events.
Oh.
That comes into
Or
play.
even if
Athletic
you just did
events
Saturday
Or at
night.
night in our own schools.
Yeah, because our
Our athletic
students are in
teams
the-
are participating at night, so doing something with a third party that's necessarily at night, It depends on my schedule, on our schedule and where teams are at.
Well, we would allow, I thought we were talking about outside organizations.
But let's say an outside organization is an auditorium, and I've got 3,000 folks in the football stadium.
Or we're talking about the weekends now?
Yes, ma'am, and that's
Okay.
why I was saying, it's just a case, knock on wood, I think you generally can work those out, but that's the
Well,
type
yeah,
of
the
challenge.
weekends, the weekends would be if there's football games, you can't rent things out. When there's other large events going on. That's what we have that now. Forget, if you go back 2 years, you still had the same issues, trying to get, the auditorium or the cafeteria or whatever during, when there's football games and other things going on. And it seems like, I guess I'm not understand. So it sounds like you're saying we shouldn't even allow any rental at all. That would be your.
It's a staffing issue. It really is, Ms. Cass. Our job is to make sure those buildings are open that day for school. And, when I've got 3 custodians, for example, or 5 custodians at a middle school, and 2 of them are out sick, and 1 of them's there during the day, so you're not doing any cleaning while students are in place. So I've got 2 people taking 125,000 square feet, and I'm saying, I want you to clean the whole building in one night. Can't happen.
Can we limit the rental to just certain parts of a building?
We do now.
That's what, auditorium and community
Primarily,
rooms?
it's auditorium, cafeterias, gymnasium, outside areas.
So-
Most of our activities outside.
So a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
That are pertinent to this. So number one, right now, we're like doing super cleaning, right? Well, I'm just calling it
We're
that.
doing our normal day-to-day cleaning right now,
That we did pre-pandemic?
pre-pandemic.
Okay, so we've already gone back to that.
The level we were doing pre-pandemic and deep cleaning were pretty much close, where we could hit every area of a building.
Okay, so, all right, so then that's aside. So then the question, when you came up and you expressed a concern about staffing, does that have to do with doing any kind of additional deep cleaning, or does that just have to do with just cleaning, period?
That's cleaning inside of,
And that's because you're short-staffed right now because of the pandemic?
no, sir. It's a challenge finding custodians, just like it is bus drivers throughout the year. We
everywhere if you
appreciate
read
where
the
we raise the
newspaper.
rates. It's made us much more competitive. We're taking people from other school systems rather than other school systems taking our staff.
It's hard to staff
But
those
right
kinds of
now, it's
jobs.
just difficult to staff. It's a challenge right now. Ms. Cass, I think, would agree from the Virginia Tech side. It's just a tough time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
those
why don't
kinds
we
of
just table
positions.
this until maybe we can hire some more custodians and take a look at it then?
Let us talk and
Yeah.
sort of look at things and maybe give recommendations of what we were capable of doing.
I think that
don't
would be
think we know.
good. I'm inclined to do, it would be nice to be able to do something because, certainly this year I've heard back from some people about like, oh, well, we can't do that anymore because the school board decided, and it's like, oh, but, and I understand and I'm still stand by the decisions that we made then, but it's also things that oftentimes it's groups that are, where it's mainly our kids that are participating and it's helping them. And so for those types of things that, I'd almost like to see them get some precedence, right? But anyway, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, let us sort of take a look at what we're, how we look and what we're doing, and
Come back.
if we can pick up like we did 2 years ago. And
Yeah, and you guys know who rents from us more than we do. So,
Yeah.
you're going to have a better idea of how we can either narrow it down some or wait a bit or have some criteria.
Okay.
I do agree, though. I think it should be, we try to make sure it's activities that are that would be more of our youth.
got to be careful with that. I think Brad would tell us we can't.
Youth. I don't mean students. Youth
No,
in
no,
general.
no. I'm
Community.
just saying
But-
we have to, if we have a rental policy,
You got to rent it to anybody.
I think that's what we would be told, that we have to open it to
Open it to everybody.
anyone. Yeah.
I still think that.
Well, and you don't know what
Go ahead, Jean.
organizations are given to the schools too, even if it doesn't apply to students. Like the Kiwanis clubs, look at all the great things they do and give to the schools. So you have to be careful when you say
Yeah.
just for student activity. So, but I'm very much just holding off till we have the staff, because schools are first.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think my priority is, be able to open the school on time, in good shape, staffed enough to run the school, and then the second round around, look into what we can do for the community.
I think that the earliest we should even do this anyway is the beginning of school, simply because of everything going on this summer. We have 3 elementary schools getting renovated. And I mean, I saw everyone in operations this past week moving stuff out of those buildings and putting them into storage. I mean, everyone had a hand in it. We had administrative assistants out there doing it. I mean, everybody was out there trying to get these buildings at Bellevue, CPSCS stuff out, and that's going to have to go back in. And so it's like going on this summer because of those construction projects too. And then, I know they've been taking shields down everywhere, and I mean, it's a lot happening this summer. A lot of moving parts this summer. So, but that's a good discussion. Made us all sort of think and let us talk a little bit more, and we'll just come back to you on that if that's okay.
I think that sounds good. Anybody else have any other things? Okay. I think we can move on to number 3.
So the next area that we would like your guidance on is the discussion point of following the guidance regarding face coverings and masks and physical distancing as provided by the VDOE and governor's executive orders when or if they loosen. So I guess, let me restate that another way. I guess the question is, do you want us to go with what that current guidance is based upon those offices, or how do you want us to proceed in those areas with the face masks and social distancing?
Did they come up with this guidance for schools?
I haven't heard.
No.
Not yet.
Okay, I think we would like to hear that whenever.
Yeah,
that
as of Executive Order 79 is still in place, and so that says that in schools, school buildings, masks must still be worn when you are inside of the building. I don't know when they would get that guidance out, but if it is the pattern we have seen, it'll be about 2 weeks after we open schools.
It would not be good.
I think we should just table this one till we get closer
I
to
agree.
the start of school. We could sit here and debate it for the next 30 minutes, but I'd rather just wait till maybe we decide, when's our first meeting in August?
I would like,
Here's the concern, Sue, with that, and it's kind of what Annie just said. A lot of the schools don't start until after Labor Day. Now, there's some, now that the new regulations have been passed, that they don't have to have a certain number of snow days and all that, that they can start earlier in August. But we may be starting one way and then changing it after.
But it's only June 1st.
I would say this too, that
I mean, I just feel like,
Yeah.
I think let's just sit on it for a month or so.
you may be able to sit on it forever simply because if you agree to follow
The governor's.
the guidance,
Right.
Right.
then we do what the guidance says, and that just makes it easy. Now, if you decide to go beyond the guidance,
And add more
that's
to
where
it.
that's where it gets
Right.
like for instance, double masking, like we did in hallways. Probably not something that we need to continue to do. That can be up to you, but it's not something that's recommended by the DOE or executive orders, that type of thing. We did it as extra layer precaution, like towards the end of the school year. And so, I guess we're at a point where, do you all just say, follow what's being said by the governor's executive orders? That's up to you.
And right now, it's to wear a mask in school.
Yeah, right now it's to wear a mask in a school building.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
like our summer schoolers are having to wear.
Right.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And that's sort of what we're doing.
But not double, correct?
no.
No. Okay. And what about outside? Because that's not also an order.
Correct.
And
Outdoors, it's not,
required,
mask
and
is
I
not.
don't agree with that.
Right. Outdoors masks are not required. And so, I don't know how much outdoor activity we have in summer school, though, really. And so
I've
I
taught
don't know.
quite a few classes out walking the track, though, because I walk at the middle school every day. And, so I don't know if some of the classes take their breaks and walk around the track or, and I really hated to see students outside have to wear masks. Mm-hmm. And if it's not part of the order, I don't understand why we're still requiring it.
I'm with Jamie on that one. I mean, I'm okay with following the
Yeah.
governor's orders
Yeah.
on face coverings and masks for now. I don't think we need double. But the physical distancing might be, because that's a two-part question here. Now, what is the current guidance on physical distancing?
There isn't.
Is there
Or
any?
I don't.
Jason, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think only with food, when you're eating, correct? Is there any distance that they're saying now?
And is that just 3 feet or 6 feet?
Inside?
Inside, you have to wear a mask.
No, distancing.
It does not specify.
Yeah, I don't think so. There isn't any.
Only on what? If you're using an instrument and you're unmasked.
I thought it's not 3 feet under CDC.
There are no.
There's no distance, just mask for schools indoors.
That's it.
Okay. It changes every week, and
Every day.
I mean, I think
Constantly.
I've sent out more memos.
So to sum it up, is what you're asking us to say, let's just follow the VDOE and the governor's executive orders and
yeah,
give you the permission to implement those as they evolve?
It would be great if we could just do that if there's a consensus of the board right now, just moving forward and not wait till what we're doing for next school year, because we do have
We have summer school
Right.
here.
school. I am not sure about elementary summer school. Do they do any recess or anything outdoors or anything? They don't? Okay. I know there's PE summer school, but I think that's virtual. But if someone goes outside,
Yeah.
how about this? If Barbara, there's possible that an elementary class could go outside to conduct class for some reason, and the guidance would say they would not have to wear a mask.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I could
so-
foresee teachers wanting to take their kids out.
So, I mean, if you all would, want to agree to that tonight, I'm not going to hold you back. That's for
Could
sure.
we, could
Okay.
we do the double masking this
No.
evening as well, or no?
I would say that's gone too.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gone to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's less confusing if we stick to one thing and we'll say we're following executive order, one order. Because like, Sue was saying, things are changing and changing for the college,
Yeah.
changing for the town. I mean, everybody has their, different rules. So I think it's easier we stick that we're following one thing and it will be
Probably.
easier.
Yeah, and probably our biggest wish is that they keep making decisions for us. That is huge.
Like maybe vaccination decisions?
Just whatever decisions, just, that they make decisions for us and help us along, because we didn't get this help last summer.
No.
And
No.
here we were, and so it does make it easier if they help us out with this.
So would
So-
it be helpful, and if it's the will of the board, would it benefit summer school
Yes.
for us to go ahead and make that decision? I know we talked about not really making it until the 16th or in July. That's really up to the will of the board. I'm
Except-
just throwing out some ideas.
Okay, well, I haven't had a chance to talk yet, so I'm perfectly fine with going along with the guidance as it may change. My concern is saying that we're going along with it, and then something should happen and our numbers just get crazy, and then folks are going, but we're going along with it. We should still have the flexibility if the numbers go up, for us to implement as a district more mitigation to make sure that we're going to be keeping students and employees as safe as possible.
Yeah, it's your will as a board.
Yeah.
You can do that. Yeah, I mean, you can change your mind after this. I mean, if something were to happen and, you say, hey, it's just different here.
Not
And
into going back and forth. I'm just saying,
Well-
let's not stick ourselves in a hole that everyone's going to be yelling and screaming that you said this is what you're going to do, but our numbers are going up and we need to get things under control.
Well-
So we're going to implement some things, put some of our mitigations back in place, depending on what the numbers are looking like.
so what's the will of the board in terms of now with our summer school program? What do y'all want us to do?
I say,
Do something now and go with this, or we'll just hold off and wait?
I say we
I say,
go with, I'm sorry,
go
Penny,
with
go
it.
ahead.
except if something should happen, numbers go up, then we have to revisit what we're putting in place.
Or if the governor sets out another executive order, then we have a conversation if we want to continue what we're doing or if we want to continue following his, depending on what he changes. I mean, if he next week decides everybody can take a mask off, do we want to do that?
Yeah, if
I
we're
don't know.
gonna say we're gonna go with it.
So we go with it for now, but with what it is currently.
Right, but I think that's what we're trying to do, is not keep revisiting. If we're saying we're going with what the governor's orders are, what the Department of Education is going with, then that's what we go with.
Right.
Unless our numbers here in Montgomery County start going up. And then we put things back in place to help keep things under control in Montgomery County.
Go ahead, Mark. I see it
Oh,
coming.
well, I'm waiting for Jamie because I think Jamie wanted to say something.
I was just going to say I agree, but I think the only thing that I was commenting on is the outdoor mask, and I don't think anybody's requiring that or doing that anymore. So, or the double masking.
Right.
Yeah, so I think what Ms. Franklin brought up is, I think, one of the bigger issues. This is what I was trying to say at the beginning, when, like, how to approach this whole thing is I think that, we can talk about this is what we want to do with the trajectory that we're on. But I think one of the other things that I'm not sure is real. I did look through these things, but I don't know if it's really captured in here is what do we do if things go wrong?
How do we
right?
pull back?
If we
Right.
get the gamma variant and it just starts tearing through the country, or actually, I mean, that might be actually more straightforward. If we get a variant that maybe becomes more of a problem in a local setting, that's where I see us needing to have something, like, we need to be ready to go back to something if we have to, and especially if it gets done on a more local basis, Now,
That's what I was saying.
my assumption is that we would work with the local health department and things like that. But we tried that last year, and I'm not saying that it didn't work with the local health department. I'm just saying I think basically throwing it up in the air and saying, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, became contentious, I think, later when we had to cross those bridges repeatedly, right? And so I agree with Ms. Franklin, and I would go further to say, if it's possible to even have a trigger or something like that where we either reassess or because you say, well, what if things spike? Well, what's a spike? Who defines a spike? What is it? Is it case numbers? Is it deaths? And maybe we just don't know enough to make those decisions. Maybe we just have to cross those bridges when we get there. I don't know.
I think that's getting way. I wouldn't even know what numbers to pull. I'd be pulling numbers out of the air, saying,
Where-
"Oh
where
yeah,
is
how
that
about
line?"
10
Yeah.
deaths?" And I mean, gee whiz, I don't even want to.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's
that's
hard to
outside my
predict that.
area of expertise.
I think we'll know when it's an emergency.
Yeah, I think we just have to be vigilant and pay attention. And if it seems like things are getting are starting to spike, as Penny said, we move into action.
And again, we'll be warned by the health department.
Yeah, I was
I'm
going to
pretty
say,
sure.
were we going to, because I think we were using the health department, we were kind of leaning on them to be our, kind of telling us when, okay, you guys need to really start thinking about doing this or that. I mean, do we, want to use the governor? And then when this area, because I hate to use the governor when Northern Virginia is having 50 million cases again, and then we're still having hardly any, and us saying, well, no, you guys still have to do it because the governor says. I mean, I do want the board to have the flexibility to do for what's best for us here locally, absolutely. And if there is a necessity or a reason that we need to be more cautious, that we need to do something, I want the board to be able to have that flexibility. But I want that to be something that we can decide by the information we're given by, I guess, experts, Penny, I guess, from the health department, or whoever we want to put into that place to kind of tell us, you all need to start getting concerned. I think that's what we kind of went by. We were guided by them last year. So if you guys feel comfortable with that again, you know, I'm good with it.
I mean, I would have preferred last year that we did have expert metrics, right? And I would have preferred that we, use those metrics. Now, we could have said, well, the World Health Institute says case numbers of, lower than 25, you're fine. If we wanted to say 20 or we wanted to say 30, that's fine. I just think we should have been consistent with it, and I think what eroded public confidence last year is that we saw case numbers soar, and then, we were told, well, that's because of the Radford students, or that was because of the Tech students, and they don't really mingle and they don't really mix. And that may be true in a lot of parts of the county, but that's not true in my district. And in my district, that was a big problem, for the public.
Right,
And so
because you're right in
I
the
would just
middle
like to
of
see
that.
an approach that, and I don't know if we can get there. I'm just saying I would like to see an approach where,
But we can have the advice, and then, but ultimately, we as a board still make that decision. So, we can be offered information, we can be offered what they feel we should do, but at the end of the day, that decision is going to be made by the 7 of us. If you feel
yeah.
comfortable
No,
with that.
I agree with you. I'm concerned about, I mean, hopefully we won't even have to cross this bridge.
Right. I
But
hope
if you
not
do
to.
get to a point where you've got a variant, or heaven forbid that we take a step backwards in any way, at what point do you start notifications again? At what point do you start requiring
I think we'll be
3-foot
given
distance,
good,
right? Like,
good guidance on that. I mean, we've already been through
I
it.
hope so, but I don't know. Like in the heat of the battle, I don't. Will we come together and make those decisions?
I have faith in us. I think we can. I think we can do it.
We did once, hopefully we'll do it again. Or if we don't
Am I
have to do
Am I
it.
hearing now? I think I'm hearing now. Okay, that we can, with our summer school programs, we can go with the current executive orders and VDH. I'm getting a lot of head shakes. All right, thank you.
Head nods.
Nods, not shakes. That's a nod. Okay, all right, very good. Okay, sorry.
Jamie, are you good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. I can't see your head shake, so that's why I was asking.
Or nod.
All right, great. And then our last discussion point is on field trips. And I'm going to find the page number here.
You didn't give us anything.
There we go. Discussion. Field trips. What would you like to do?
Dangerous word,
And so I guess that would include both in-state and out-of-state if you were to discuss that.
That's a tough one.
I mean, because it could also include the size of the group. I mean,
Yeah.
Where
You know,
and
where
what's
they
going
go.
on, where they're at, and
yeah, like, are they going
that's
to a
almost
big?
one that,
Well, and how they get there, if they're on a bus, do they need
yeah,
to
I
wear a
think that's
mask
going
on?
to have to be determined by several factors, and it may not be until we get to that point that we can actually truly make a, I don't know. What do you
Can I
guys
say
think?
this, and so maybe we don't go round and round again?
Please.
So if parents deem that they want to allow their child to go on a trip, then they can go. If they say no, then they don't go. But at this point, everybody's going everywhere, and 9 times out of 10, kids will probably have already been someplace that they're going on a trip to anyway. So I would say it's open, and if you choose for your child to go, let them go. If not, tell them no.
I mean, you're right. The parents have the final say, period. COVID or no COVID.
Right. I agree with Ms. Franklin on that.
What about on
I
buses?
agree.
Do
That's what
students
I.
still need to wear masks on buses? Is that?
Yes, public
I know on
transportation.
BT, they still have to wear masks, so.
Public transportation still.
All public transportation, yeah.
I'm sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I agree with Penny 100%. I've kind of said that all along, and being here at Myrtle Beach, there's no vacancies anywhere. You can't, I mean, the beaches are full, the malls are packed, it's from everywhere. Our hometown too, and kids running everywhere. So I agree with Penny 100%.
Okay.
Of course, we would still, no matter what decision you make, any out-of-state field trip still will come to you.
Sure.
You know, regardless. And so I guess it's probably more about, you know, community field trips and that kind of things that our folks will be going on. But I'm not aware of any field trips happening this summer. Do you have summer field trips of any kind? I don't know. I do know.
Yeah, the Shawsville Middle School.
Well, and I'm besides that, we all know about that. Christiansburg High School band, they do a away camp. They're not doing away band camp this year.
It's going to be in July, right?
Yeah, but they're not doing that this year.
They're not? Okay.
I think
Not
they,
the away one.
I think they just went ahead and said we'll hold off this year just because it's uncertain.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is
I respect that.
which
That's
is good.
smart.
I respect that.
And so, okay.
Okay.
Well, you know,
wow, we made a
yeah.
consensus on that.
Yeah, great job.
folks.
Well, you know, something too, I'll tell you this as well. If you haven't had a chance just to go back through this, you know, document, you know, feel free to do that. And anything you see that we need to bring up at the next meeting, you know, we will. If you like say, okay, why did y'all scratch that out or strike through that? We need to talk about that. Please let us know so we can put that on the agenda for the 15th.
One of the things I didn't see on here was the extra mitigation that we've done. Is the assumption that all that stuff's gone? The barriers and things like that?
Yes, the flexible,
Yes, sir, we redlined all of those things.
we do with it all.
Right now, it's living in the land of red. We did discuss briefly, but I don't really remember where we ended on it. If a teacher wanted them to put the dividers in, they could, but then we went to the other side of then the parent wouldn't have the option to not have the divider. So I think we ended with if the teacher wanted to put a divider around their own desk, that they certainly could.
Yeah, we had the discussion about this in terms of, you know, what we did, we allowed teachers to have the choice. But then we thought about, okay, we had a lot of students that wanted that choice as well, you know, and didn't want those dividers in front of them. And then too, you know, of course, a lot of late science coming out about dividers. And some of the, you know, because there was no, it's pretty common sense that a divider would help with what's called direct suppression, okay? However, there's possibly some evidence that it could actually hurt the flow of the room, the intake and the intake and
Air
actually the
intake.
movement of air in the room, having those dividers there. And so just one more thing that we've learned in this whole thing. You know, and it doesn't mean that the direct suppression doesn't work. And, you know, of course, the grocery stores, department stores, all those have those, which makes sense because it is direct, straight in front of someone. But in a classroom, it's shown that it may not be needed as much as we thought it did. And so, but the air filtration is something that we will keep forever.
Yeah.
I mean, that is something that I think that will not only help with COVID, but it's going to help with everything else that all the other things that happen, you know, and the germs in the schools and that kind of thing, and continuing to upgrade our systems is very important. We've realized that it's mostly about the air that's circulating. And I've had a conversation with Dr. Mark, Virginia Tech, and if you ask her, it's about the air. That's mostly what it's about. And, you know, and so I'm very, I think we've always gone with the science that we know at the time. And I think that's what we're doing now, regardless. But yeah, if you have anything that you read through and you want us to bring it up at the next meeting, let us know prior if you can. It would help us to do a little research and as to the whys and whats and that kind of thing. But if not, then next time we'll come back actually with a clean draft of this, you know, with the changes that we've talked about tonight, and just to have it, and then I think the flexibility in it's important. I think, you know, we need to still have flexibility in it. Maybe we write that in there somehow. I don't know. I think that's really important because even when in July, when we vote on this, of course, we're only a couple weeks out from school. Things change. We know that things change, and we need to be prepared for that. And I think we've shown that we can. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business. There are no matters of unfinished business. New business, is there any matters of new business that anyone would like to add as an agenda item for the next meeting?
I think it would be, I don't know if it has to be at the next meeting, but I guess the way we do unfinished business now, it's almost like, why is it even on the agenda? I mean, it's very rare that we actually,
It is, but we
Right.
still want to give the opportunity for to another meeting, that's not pressing.
sure. Yeah, well, I guess when we do that, we usually put it on the agenda, so then we don't even need it under unfinished business. You see what I'm saying? I mean, the way that I think unfinished business had been used in the past is kind of as old business in a way, right? Like if there's something that we've already talked about or already settled, but somebody wanted to comment on or bring up, we used it that way, and that we don't really do that anymore. And so we're doing a lot of changes with some of the ways that we run our meetings. I know you brought up some of the Robert's Rules stuff a few months ago, and there was kind of a pushback on that. So I don't know at what point we want to, and what the best way forward on that kind of stuff. But I almost feel like we need to, when we make those changes, it would be nice to have the discussion and the buy-in from everybody on making those changes. So I know you said earlier today that you're trying to slowly do some of those things, but is it worth having a discussion about some of those at some point, like at a work session?
I mean, certainly I have some ideas of things that we could add on our work sessions to discuss. So if we want to put this on there, that's certainly fine to do.
Yeah, I mean,
The unfinished business and new business.
and old business, really. I mean, that's what I'm getting at, is it would be nice to have something on the agenda, an opportunity for old business on the agenda somewhere, which is kind of the way that we used to use unfinished business, so.
Okay,
But it's the will of the board. I mean, whatever other people think too.
sure. We can actually discuss it.
Okay.
Okay. Any announcements or information? All right. You will see on the meetings that our next meeting will be June the 8th, and we'll be at the school board office in conference room A. This will be a closed session meeting to discuss the superintendent's evaluation. And I believe that, Mark,
I will be
you were
remote.
remoting in, and Sue, you were
I will
unsure.
be, it's the 8th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay. Okay. And then our next meeting will be a work session, and that will be June 15th, and that will be at the P. All right. The next item on our agenda is closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss 2 personnel matters as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are now in closed session.
Across the hall, does anyone